Hey, I thought I would cover this game. I think it's really cool. Um, GSC Invitational. I think we're actually at number five. I kind of lost track. Been living under a rock, so this is the fifth Invitational, which is cool. We're already at around $250, and it's week one, so definitely much better than most other tournaments. Highest paying tournament in terms of Generation 2. I don't think there is another Generation 2 tournament out there in the world right now that's paying more money for the players. So this is cool. Check it out. We have Vani, who's been around for a long time, one of the better performing players. And the app, who is a little bit more of a recent addition. Pretty sure he's performed well in some recent tours. But I really loved this set, so we'll get right into it. We got Lax versus Zap. We got a Zap 4 team. Okay, so Zap 4. We're seeing more Fortress on offense. This because that normal resistance is nice. Fortress does a pretty nice job at coming in on EQ Lax. Has a better odds of surviving the non-curse EQ version. And it can kind of just slow it down a lot easier. Well, easier. It's subjective. It's nice to have. It's not. It can't outclass Cloister outright, but sometimes when Lax is at +2, clicking that double edge means all the difference, because if I can click a double edge to 2-hit KO you, then I can always just make a prediction later. So switching into a normal resist after has its defects. But when you bring in its drawbacks, when you bring in Fortress early, it's steel type, so that it benefits a little more, because the bug typing also helps because it resists ground. So it's not like bringing in Steelix. So yeah, the problem is if Snorlax keeps setting up like this, so the app needs to find an out here. He's just going to continue clicking Toxic. And as you can see, even at +3, the Lax is going to take a bit of recoil plus Toxic. It's not going to be able to 2-hit KO the Fortress. So the Lax is going to set up early. We don't know what the app has in the back, but he's going to go straight to Steelix, because on one end it could be Mono Lax, right? Curse. In which case, if it's Curse, one normal attack and Sleep Talk, then it's not going to deal much damage to Steelix. In the other case, if it's Curse EQ, then it doesn't have Sleep Talk, so Steelix is definitely gonna come in just fine. But of course it's nicer to set up, because the Snorlax reveals Sleep Talk, and since it's not a huge threat, shit. I hate it when my notifications come in. All right. Okay. Since it's not a huge threat, the Steelix can set up. And look, Snorlax has essentially nearly maxed out its attack, and it's only taking away 18%. That's negligible. And now the Steelix is pretty threatening. We see a Raikou. We see a Fori. And a Monolax. So there's very likely going to be a Tyranitar in the back. There is a Skarmory. So this is kind of spelling trouble, because the position that the Steelix is in right now is kind of threatening, because it could explode. Tyranitar is probably going to be a Pursuit. It could have a Fire move. But if I'm the app, I just go for the attack. He clicks Earthquake. Vani switches out. The Skarmory can set up, but it can't do much else. So, this is fine. The app is going to attack the Fortress. Fortress is going to spin. It cannot stay in next turn. And the app brings in his Fortress, and he's going to put the spikes there immediately. We do see that this is one of those, if not the Zokaru team, that famous one from years ago. Yes, and it is. It's Rapid Spin, Tentacruel. Tentacruel has a nice matchup against Fortress, but not so much against Gengar. So we see that this is Thunder. It paras. It does just half damage. The Gengar takes a hit, but that's fine. The Gengar's HP isn't really fundamental. Like, it's good to avoid a pursuit, like in this case, but we're going to see what happens. So there's an Earthquake. Okay, the Gengar goes down. Okay, so that crit actually did matter. I lied. We do see a Nidoking. So Nidoking is quite threatening versus this T-Tar. And look at that. 57. Another Earthquake from the app. So we see not extremely typical team from the app. Like we see Gengar, we see Nidoking together quite often. We typically like to have T-Tar as opposed to Steelix. It's not uncalled for, but it's nice. It gives you a little bit more backbone against the electrics, having two ground types. And that can kind of leverage your Snorlax. Your Snorlax can be more aggressive that way. So that's interesting. That's interesting. It's doing a good job. The Nidoking does a good job at poking and getting some chip damage. The Steelix can phase, and now it's faster than the Tentacruel. It can kill it, which means that the app could then confirm the spikes for good. Vani does not have a good switch into the Steelix right now. Actually, nothing can switch into the Steelix. So the app can decide to do whatever he likes. This is a very difficult situation for Vani right now. And every time Tentacruel is coming in, it's taking a little bit of damage. Just a little bit. Of course, what Vani is probably trying to do here is he wants to get the app very low. So the last time that the Steelix was facing Tyranitar, the Steelix chose Earthquake. This time, Vani chose to switch out, and the app basically conditioned Vani into making a choice instead of staying in, clicking rest. And that's what happens. Sometimes we look at a turn, we think about a move, and we think, oh, this Pokemon is facing me right now. I have to do this. But there's never a 100% correct answer. You choose a move, but then based on the information you gave the opponent the first time, or even based on your habits, the opponent will try to adapt and try to outpace based on how you acted earlier. Okay, so that's important to keep in mind. If there were always a correct play in the same scenario all the time, 100% of the time, in a game, then that move would be predictable. If a move were always 100% correct, that move would be predictable. But if it's predictable, then it's not perfect. This is a statement that Borat, the legendary GSC let's say the historical GSC player once said. So when the Snorlax comes in, that's when the Steelix can use one curse and be even more threatening. So Vani could forfeit the Fortress. He's going to attempt to spin away the spikes. There's nothing better for him to do. Now, if the Steelix slows down too much, then Tentacruel can use Surf. He's just trying to make him gain HP. The app makes a good play, in my opinion. He goes to the fortress. He wants to establish his spikes as soon as possible. Now, Tentacruel usually has a winning matchup, but the HP on this Tentacruel is low. And it has no... Well, the HP is low. Okay? And it's paralyzed. So, Fortress is going to use Hidden Power. What looks to be Hidden Power Bug. But I'm not certain. Let's see. So Hidden Power Fire is to hit other Fortress. But in this case, you have a Gengar. Hidden Power Bug lets you hit other Mons, like Starmie. And it does more damage because of Stab. Also, it's physical, so it's dealing decent damage to the Tentacruel. So it's like a math problem. If Tentacruel clicks Protect, then Tentacruel gets to gain 6.25 HP, or half of 12 HP. If Fortress attacks, then it loses about 15 HP. Now, Tentacruel could attack as well, and it could 3-hit KO the Fortress. But in about 2 hits, or 3, the Tentacruel will die, because it is slower. So it will die before the Fortress gets KO'd. Now, if Tentacruel clicks Protect, though, the Fortress gets to click Spikes. And that means on a turn that the Tentacruel isn't attacking, the Fortress can get an advantage, because that means the next turn the Tentacruel will want to click Rapid Spin, which means that the Fortress is guaranteed to take away 15%. So now the Tentacruel will die in 2 hits. Okay, so this time the app doesn't click the spikes. He's going to attack again, but this puts him in a difficult situation. Okay, the Fortress could live 1 more hit. He's going to go for spikes. Tentacruel fully paralyzed. If that were a Surf, that would have been huge. Now you see Tentacruel still has to remove these spikes, and Fortress is in the offensive, so it's going to explode. Yes, it dies, but what this does is now, the next time Steelix or Nidoking comes in, Vani's team is in trouble. It's already very, very weak, and it can't afford to continue switching around. Snorlax has been revealed, and it does a crit to the Tyranitar, which is absolutely terrible for Vani. Now, Skarmory is a good check to Curse Earthquake Snorlax, but Nidoking is an even better check to Skarmory. And we know that this Snorlax is mono, meaning it has no special attacks. And Nidoking is going to use Lovely Kiss. I think that's a very good Lovely Kiss turn. It forces the Snorlax to immediately start using inconsistent moves. Steelix will come in here. It can click Curse for free with no problem. And Raikou and Tyranitar will die. And Skarmory is not able to do anything to the Steelix. The only issue is that the last Mon, Snorlax, could be a little bit of a problem. A little bit, not a huge one. So Vani is going to attempt to deal some damage to this Steelix, but it's pointless. And this Tyranitar, Steelix stays in, clicks Roar. Raikou cannot stay in. Goes to Skarmory. Steelix is obviously going to click Roar again. Raikou takes more damage. And the cycle repeats itself. Tyranitar is going to die. How many roars has this Steelix used? It's used more than half. It's used 17. Nidoking takes no damage from the Skarmory, and it forces a switch immediately. It's going to be a little bit slow because Steelix isn't the fastest Mon. It's not really a sweeper. It's more of a Mon that's going to leverage your game. But Nidoking is nice because it kind of forces this Snorlax into a position where it has to use Sleep Talk. And so the app has a second out here. He can switch to Steelix, and the Sleep Talking Lax is going to consume PP. I mean, it didn't do it this turn, but maybe the next one. You might think, why doesn't Vani just double? Because one, the double switch isn't going to benefit him all that much. It could benefit him in the short term, but not in the long term, not even in the mid term. So there's always going to be a risk that if he switches from Skarmory out of Nidoking into Snorlax while facing a Snorlax, there's a small chance that the app would simply just attack. That's called a mix-up, where you expect a type of play, and every once in a while you change. It's very common in many different types of games, especially combat sports or beat-em-ups. And those types of mix-ups win games. So here we're seeing one of those turns, and now the Snorlax has 8 Sleep Talks left. That's putting it in a really bad position. A couple more Sleep Talks, and Vani's Snorlax is not really going to be able to handle Steelix in the last slot. As it is right now, the app is in a very good position to take out this Snorlax. And now the Snorlax is dead because it's slower, and there's nothing that the app can do, so Vani forfeits this game. All right? Okay. So on to game 2. It's a best of 3. Okay. Moving down. Okay. Best of 3. We're going to switch sides. Yeah. Game 2. We got an Eggy lead and a Zapdos lead. Hidden Power immediately. Immediate explosion. That's very interesting. Because an immediate explosion from an Exeggutor is not going to always play out very well. You have a very powerful Mon, against another very powerful mon. Now, technically, that is a good trade, okay, Exeggutor for Zapdos. But the potential with an offensive Pokemon like that is to take out 2 or 3 Pokemon, or killing one and putting another to sleep. I mean, that would be ideal. So, if you immediately explode, that means that you probably have something like a Vaporeon, okay? So expect another explosion on something like a Snorlax. Vaporeon wants 3 Pokemon out of the way, typically. Zapdos, Snorlax, and I guess Gengar. I mean, depending on what teams you're facing, obviously if it's Sol, it's going to be different. But you want Raikou. But Cloyster is also a bit of a problem. So the app is going to bring in his Cloyster. He wants to get spikes. He uses Toxic. And a Surf. So both of these teams look like their offense. And Vani has Ice Beam, not Surf. Not Surf. Dealing super effective damage to that Zapdos. Cloyster could explode, but does it want to? It does. It does. And we see immediately switching to Vaporeon. Vaporeon is in a good matchup against Tyranitar. Vani knows that one Rock Slide is not going to help, but a Screech will be very helpful. Now the Snorlax is pretty threatening. But the app has Acid Armor. The Acid Armor is going to nullify that Screech, and in fact, it's going to make it a very big problem. Now we see that Vani has a Screech Tyranitar, so he probably has a different normal resist. And now the Vaporeon is going to start setting up growth, increasing its special attack, and also alternating with Acid Armor. And look at that, a +1 Snorlax is only taking away 20%. That is not even a 5-hit KO on the Vaporeon. It's maxed out its defense. And it's going to continue setting up. Unless Vani gets a crit, which could happen, this is looking like the end. This is looking quite dangerous. Vani's going to attack. Of course, we don't know what Vani has in the back, and they are down 4-4. This could escalate very quickly. Vaporeon goes and uses Baton Pass, passing to Starmie, the very fast Starmie with very high special attack, and now astronomical defense. But Vani has a Starmie of his own with Thunder Wave. Now it's not going to survive, but it does cripple the Starmie just a little bit. But Vani's going to need all of the luck in the world. That's why I like this so much. Acid Armor and Baton Pass. It's the only set that would justify an immediate explosion on Zapdos turn 1. There's the Para. And Snorlax is actually faster right now. It's going to rest. Another Para. Vani might be able to find a way out. If he can get through the Starmie, he essentially wins. Well, maybe not essentially. It actually depends. It's not essentially. But if he doesn't get the right move, like he gets another curse, then that's the end for Vani. See, Starmie is already faster now. And look, it's essentially doing half. Not considering lefties. And the Snorlax is getting stronger. So this it's starting to hurt a little more. But the recoil takes out the Snorlax. And now Starmie is going to be faster. There's nothing that can be done. The app wins this set decisively. This is a really cool set. I like this set. I like this team. I think it's really cool. I'd be terrified of using it, but I'd be even more terrified of facing it. All right then. Hope you guys enjoy.